for the majority of people. But what about the indigent? Not so well for the indigent. How do we take care of the indigent now? Medicaid. What's the annual Medicaid budget? $400 to $500 billion a year. How many people participate? About a quarter of our population, about 80 million people. 80 million into 400 billion goes 5,000 times. That's how much we allocate for every man, woman, and child on Medicaid, $5,000. What could you buy with that? Concierge practice, boutique practice, $2,000 to $3,000 a year on average. So we can put them all in a boutique practice and still have thousands left over to buy their catastrophic insurance, which is much cheaper now. Now, I'm not advocating we do that. I'm saying that's how much money we actually have put aside. What if we use that money efficiently? And, we can certainly do it in a way that we can provide health savings accounts for them. Now, the people in Washington, if they're true to form, will say, no, they're too stupid. They don't know. They couldn't possibly manage a health savings account, because I don't know why they think everybody's stupid. Maybe they look in the mirror. But anyway, the thing is, they said the same thing about food stamps. They said you can't actually give them food stamps because they're too stupid. And they'll go out and buy porterhouse steak the first 5 days, and the sixth day they'll be on the corner begging for food. Did that happen? No. They learned how to buy rice and beans and corn and hamburger helper. And guess what? They would also quickly learn how to manage that health savings account. Mr. Jones, who has that diabetic foot ulcer, will learn very quickly not to go to the emergency room, where it costs 5 times more to get it taken care of than it is in the clinic. And the difference is, in the emergency room, they kick you out. In the clinic, they fix it and say, now, Mr. Jones, let's get your diabetes under control. A whole nother level of savings, which we are not realizing. That's what we have got to do. And also, Mr. Jones is learning about responsibility for his own health. Anything that we advocate should lead people toward a sense of personal responsibility and not toward a sense of dependency. And I think that will help us enormously as a nation. Now, a lot of people have said to me, but why would you run for public office? You don't have any experience. Why is it that people think that the only people with experience are politicians, and that they're the only ones who are indispensable and can solve our problems? If you look at the collective experience of everybody in Congress, it adds up to about 9,000 years. Has it really helped us that much? It doesn't seem to me that that's helping. And what I would prefer is someone with experience solving complex problems, someone with experience putting together teams of people with lots of different types of expertise to focus on a problem and get that problem solved, even if it has never been done before in history. And one of the things that I know as a surgeon is that nobody wants to have surgery, and nobody likes the discomfort and the short-term pain, but they like the long-term effect because it may solve your problem, it may solve your life. And that's what we have to begin to look at as we think about how we're going to solve the many problems. And I would like to have somebody who has experience innovating and coming up with new things and new ways to do things. I've had that experience multiple times in my life, and it helps. And also a lot of corporate experience. There are few people running who spend as much time in the corporate America as I have. 18 years on the board of Kellogg, 16 on Costco, figuring out how to make things work efficiently, learning about things like the Lean Six Sigma program, which was used by Toyota and 3M and Apple Computers to turn their operations around from inefficiency to efficiency, in most cases saving at least 25%. Those are the kinds of things that could work extremely effectively in our government. There is absolutely no reason that the people of America don't deserve an efficiently functioning government. I don't think most people have any problem paying into the government as long as they see that the money is being used in an efficient and an effective way. And then, what about experience in life? I think that's a very useful thing. You know, I've been fortunate enough, some people wouldn't think it was fortunate, to have experienced every economic level in our country, from the lowest to the highest, and to work all kinds of jobs, you name it, pretty much. I've had a chance to do it. And to see how people feel and how people think in those various arenas. Because one of the things that has happened to us in America is we've allowed the purveyors of division to be successful in dividing us, into creating all kinds of wars. There's a war on women, race war. Anytime there's any kind of thing between two different races, the new element of the race war. Income wars, always keep it on the front burner. Age wars, and now religious wars. All of this stuff is destructive. It was Jesus himself who said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." And we, the American people, have got to be smart enough to recognize that we will never succeed if all we do is fight each other and be uncivil to each other and try to destroy anybody who disagrees with you and try to destroy their business and their livelihood. I mean, when did we get like that? It's because we've been listening to the purveyors of hatred and division within our country. And we can and we must do better, because that will help us in virtually everything. And it's been a gradual thing that's happened that has gotten us to that place. You know, I remember when I was in the 5th grade, I got glasses. And wow, you mean you can actually see the board? But, you know, I had never kind of realized that everybody didn't see that way. Probably my vision had just gradually deteriorated, and I really didn't recognize that it was a problem. Well, I think that's the same thing that's been happening in our nation. This is a nation where we once had a strong conviction that there was no way we were going to leave debt to the next generation. In fact, Thomas Jefferson said it's immoral to leave debt to the next generation. And yet, what have we done? We now have an $18.4 trillion national debt. I mean, think about that. $18 trillion, we can say it, but do we have any idea what it means? If you tried to pay that back at $10 million a day, 365 days a week, it would take you more than 5,000 years. And that's what we're putting on the backs of the next generation. And a lot of people don't, it's no problem. And our representatives declare victory when the deficit doesn't go up as much this quarter as it did the last quarter. They have no concept of what victory is and what they are doing to this nation. But that's the good news, because it's actually much worse than that. It's the fiscal gap. That's where the real problem is. The amount of money that our government owes in terms of unfunded liabilities, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all the departmental programs, all the cabinet programs, versus what they expect to come in from tax revenues and other sources. And those two numbers should be almost identical. That's the way your house is run, unless you're in bankruptcy. And but when that's not the case, there's a gap that's forming there. Bring that forward into today's dollars. That gap right now sits at about $211 trillion. No politicians talk about this because they want to be reelected. But since I'm not a politician, I can talk about it. And I talked about it when I made my announcement in Detroit. And the next day, a bunch of the liberal media came out and said, "See, we told you Carson doesn't know anything about economics. He's crazy. He's just trying to scare people." On and on they went. And then the next day, Forbes came out with an article that said 17 Nobel laureates in economics and 1,200 economics professors agree with Carson. Well, of course, that kind of dampened their criticism a little bit. But, you know, this is a real issue. And the only reason that we can sustain that level of debt is because we can print money. We are the reserve currency of the world, and we can print money, albeit irresponsibly. You know, it's not connected to anything. We decoupled it from the gold standard in 1971. It's based on our good name, our faith, and credit, which isn't that good, and could get a whole lot worse in a hurry. Now, you know, the position of reserve currency traditionally goes with the number one economy in the world, which we have been since the 1870s, until last year, when China became the number one economy. Would they like to be the reserve currency? Would they like to be able to print money and have things based on their currency? Of course they would. But their banking system, as you probably know, is in shambles, which is fortunate for us. What if it weren't? And there is no guarantee that this situation will last forever. They're working on it right now. The Asian International Investment Bank, they infused $100 billion into it 2 weeks ago. And several of our allies have gotten involved. They are in the process of stabilizing. What is going to happen if we do not have